Good morning, friends. We'll continue with the sonnet Went to the Sessions of Sweet Silent Thought, written by William Shakespeare. The poet writes this sonnet and introduces the idea that when, mark the beginning word, when there are sessions in which he plunges into the memories of the bygone days and he summons them up perforce and thinks about what happened to him, then what he actually does is he sighs the lack of many a thing he sought. Means he feels miserable for all the things that he had sought in the bygone ages and which he couldn't get. Many a things I sought, things which he sought. Implied meaning is he couldn't achieve them. And because of that, because of these memories where he thinks of things which he couldn't get, he adds new woes to his old woes, and which is his valuable time's waste. So, the first stanza, which is rhymed as AB, AB, and which is the quatrain, because these four lines are in the pattern of AB, AB, rhyming with each other. So we know that in this quatrain, he gives an idea of the time when. When. Second stanza. Then can I drown an eye. The poet says that it is at that time that my eye gets drowned. Means tears get filled up in my eyes. My eye gets drowned, which is unused to flow. I am not used to weeping. But when I think of those bygone things which I sought and I couldn't get, then I start weeping. For whom? For precious friends hid in death's dateless night. Alliteration again, death's dateless night. So I think of those precious friends who I lost to death. There is a dateless night because death, you can't date it that you lost a person these many years ago and that one these many years ago. It's like you just lose people, and once they are lost forever. So for precious friends, I think of those very valuable friends in this valuable time. I think of those valuable friends who got hidden, who I lost in the death's dateless night, and weep afresh love's long since cancelled war. So I weep afresh. What do I weep about? Love's long since cancelled woe. Long since cancelled means which I had already cancelled out from my life. I wept for those friends, I wept for them, and they are a kind of cancellations. They stayed as a cancellation. The poet very frankly submits that once when a person is lost, they are somehow hidden in death's dateless night, and they are hidden to the extent that they stand cancelled. You have paid your dues. We weep the memory of those people away, and then they stand cancelled as if. But in those sessions when I think about them, I juggle up, I weep afresh, I again weep and mourn the expense of many a vanished sight. So, vanished sight is the metaphor used for those friends who are hidden in the death's dateless night. Let us see what is he doing in this poem. In this stanza, which is rhymed as flow is sea, woe is sea again, Night is D and sight is D. In this quatrain of CD, the poet is in fact talking about the actions that he performs when in those sessions of sweet silent thought he drowns the eye, he weeps afresh, and he moans. So these are the things that he does in these sessions of sweet silent thought. He plunges into misery. It is nothing of a happiness. He plunges into misery. He thinks about them. He's filled with misery. He summons the idea of those people, thinks about them. He weeps, he moans, and then his eyes get drowned. So, in this stanza, the when with which he started the first quatrain, he comes to a then in the second quatrain. The first word is then. And again, then can I grieve at grievances foregone? So, grieve at grievances. There is a kind of repetition. There is a focus upon the thing that what is he doing actually? He grieves at grievances. Those things about which he has already grieved, foregone, about which he had grieved, he grieves again. And heavily, from woe to woe, tell over the sad account of four bemoaned moan, which I knew pay, as if not paid before. So he says that in those sessions, heavily, his heart becomes heavy because his eyes get drowned. He thinks of the sad things. Something very miserable happens to him, and from woe to woe, from one suffering to the other suffering. In fact, when you remember someone who passed away and was a friend or dear to you, then definitely you are reminded of someone else who also was dear to you. So these remindings of those people who have got lost in the death's dateless night, they are like telling over. Telling over is to move the beads. You must have seen people when they are lost in a reverie or they are thinking of God, they keep a rosary in their hand and move the beads one after the other. So telling over is likened to that process in which you memorize, just as you memorize the name of God when you are moving the beads of the rosary. So also in these sessions, he tells over from one misery to the other, and he tells the sad account, the sad remembrances of already four bemoaned. Four is priorly moans, priorly given moans. He says, only when I think of them, I only moan and I moan and I moan. And it appears as if I become so miserable that it appears that I had not paid my due to the people, to my loved ones earlier. So much of grief strikes me. But now comes the two-line stanza, the concluding stanza, which is in fact a couplet. So he says that when I think of other friends, I weep, I moan, I bemoan, I plunge into misery. But the while I think of thee, dear friend, but the moment that I think of you, my friend, all losses are restored and sorrows end. So when I think of you, all my losses are as if restored. Your memory gives me a kind of reconciliation with the misery. All my losses seem to be restored and my sorrows end. So his Shakespearean sonnets get summed up in the couplet. The three quatrains, the one began with when, the second began with then, the third began with then. So it is like to say that whenever I think of others, then this happens, then this happens. But the while I think of you, my dear friend, so this poem is an attribute, is a tribute paid to his friend by the name W.H. So he says, but friend, when I think of you, all my losses seem to be restored. I no longer plunge into misery. I no longer feel miserable. In fact, my sorrows end. That means he should be finding this friend not as a lost one, but as a friend who is alive in his memory. And it appears that he sits and they might be having a conversation one to one. So, this sonnet is the 30th sonnet, which is about a friend by the name W.H. And the previous uh, sonnet that we read was went to this, like as the waves, which is a tribute to a dark lady. So, with this, we end up and conclude it that the poet only speaks about the memories of few friends whose remembrances cause him to feel more miserable that he has lost them. But the friend's memory brings back to him a confirmation that his sorrows have ended. So much lively is this love. Thank you.